5:02 p.m.
There we go.
In attendance are Larry Osborne, Cynthia Andrews, Ken Hall, Scott Edwards, Carrie Linder, and Nick Dirkman. Library staff, Maureen Cole and Denise Butcher. The first item is approval of the minutes. You should have received the minutes from both October and November last week. Were there any additions or corrections?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor of approval of the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no. All right. The minutes are approved. We'll move on to item 3, public comments. And I do not see any public here, so we will move on to item 4, my favorite part of every meeting, the library director report.
And enjoy it while you can, right? Good evening, library board members. It's so nice to be here after missing the November meeting, and thank you for carrying on and doing all the interviews and getting through that. And as you know, Scott and Suzanne were reappointed, so it's kind of nice. You guys are the same for then the next year. And then Ken, I think Ken is up next. I can't remember. Anyway, so as Nick would like to remind us all, the library report is without statistics this month. He is very sad about it. Yes, I know. And of course you didn't have any last month either. So the slowdown is, well, of course last month, you know, I was gone, but the reason I didn't get to cleaning up both of those is I really need to go back and look at the door counter situation, because we have discovered that somebody called us out on our numbers, and they're like, are you sure that your door isn't counting like two-way and not just one-way? And sure enough, Aaron looked at it, and 2 of the door counters are counting 2 ways, which means that our numbers are less than we think potentially. So I really need to go in and read the support information that he pulled up from those devices and really think about what, I'm looking at each month and what that is representing. And I want to go back and then clean that up to the degree that it needs to be cleaned up, and then go backwards as far as I can and fix it. So, while our attendance has been fantastic, it may not have been 43,000 a month as we thought it was. So I'm hoping that it's not like this kind of situation where we're cutting it in half kind of thing, but because I really hope it's not that. But I need to have the bandwidth to go back and do that. And I don't really want to even look at statistics until I am ready to dive into that whole project. So that's what's going on. And it's just been kind of a very crazy fall. And I got back and we jumped right into library director interviews, and it's just not really slowed down too much. So I'm one of those people that require a chunk of some time before I can really do some solid thinking on certain things that involve numbers usually, in particular. Yeah, I can write things pretty quickly, but when it involves numbers, I really want to have a clear head. So that's what's going on. I will make it right before I leave. I will be here for sure for the January meeting. If I'm here in February, it is only as a visitor. And because I have told Tony that January 31st is, honest to God, the last day that I will be here in charge of anything. I'm not going to be in charge of something in February, and I'll get to that. But anyway, so that's what's going on. Sorry about the statistics. We finally might also be getting going on the basement remodel that we have been waiting for months. It's not really a remodel, but it's a reduction of noise down there. And we actually have decided to do some rearranging of staff stuff down there also, which I think will make better use of the space and make it less like a mosh pit, which I think would be very good for better productivity for most of the people down there. They have a lot of fun and they get everything done, but it could be a little bit better. So that's happening. And I'm never going to forget your comment about if we could get a door figured out by December, because here it is December, and yes, the door is done. The door is done, it works great. We've been using it. In fact, we could always prop it open, but like we were able to use it the other night to have like an additional entrance. We used for the Light Up the Life event that was in the foyer. We locked the glass doors, and everybody who came to it had to go in through the community room, which was really nice because they wanted everybody to register so they could narrow down that space, you know, and have everybody register that way. So it worked out really well. So what we basically need to do to follow up is look at our processes and make sure that our policy is in alignment, and then figure out how we're actually going to effectively train people who might use that space without library staff around, and really think about, like, what does that mean? What do they need to know? What phone numbers do they need, like, really handy, et cetera, right? So we need to do some more thinking on that. So the door's done, but the stuff that comes with it is not done. So, and then the big news of the week was that the dead tree in the front yard was taken down, and there was not a line of protesters at all because they had good information ahead of time. And it really was dead. It was like starting to drop branches, and it could have been a very dangerous situation. And also it's like Dutch elm, so it's like just spreading it to the other trees. I mean, there's just nothing you can do at a certain point. And then in January, there's going to be trenching, which is like how they provide like basically medicine to the other trees that may have been infected, to like try and vaccinate almost like those things as much as they possibly can, keep them alive.
Mo, what was the actual disease?
Dutch elm.
I'm sorry?
Dutch elm.
Dutch elm.
Yeah. Yeah, so it spreads really, and you can't do anything with the wood, you know, and all that. So they made quick work of it. They did a great job on it. So that's gone, and there's a new tree in place already, which is not an elm, I can assure you that. Yeah. So that's been going on there. And then in the last couple months, mostly it's been like a lot of evaluations, because they always come due at this time of the year. First is like staff, and then is management. So, you know, it's obviously a wonderful thing to sit down with people and talk to them deeply about what work they're doing and how they're doing it, all that stuff once a year. It's just, you know, it's very time consuming, but very worthwhile. And especially since this is my last evaluation I'm going to give to people. I mean, we've had people in my office like, oh, I'm not going to cry. I'm like, good, because I wrote something that you need to think about here. You know? But anyway, so that's been getting done. Staffing has generally been like very, very stable, but like as always happens to us, it's like our on-calls are part-time people. It just seems like there will be these waves where like one of them will say, oh, guess what? This great thing is happening to me. I'm going to have a full-time job at blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, like 3 or 4 of them are leaving. And that exactly is what is happening again. So, so we'll be looking at what we can do about that. And if we have to do another recruitment, then we have to do another recruitment. So as far as programs, the Building Bridges series that Gina has been running has been really doing well. And that was Conversations on Race. And Nick has been attending them, if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, it's really well done. And just the way that the sessions happen, there's a lot of discussions in small groups. So it's not like just going in and being lectured to at all. There's a lot of interaction, and she really encourages people to switch groups and try to develop, you know, at least some exposure to other people. So it's a really good program. Good.
So I think that's a good example of how our programming has grown over the years and gotten a little bit more sophisticated, and is responding to some needs from the adults in the community that really like generate some stimulating conversations and some thoughtful processes, you know, so I'm really pleased with that. And then, as you may or may not know, I can't remember what I've said, there is going to be a community-wide read that's going to take place at the end of February. And it's Gina's kind of working in collaboration with Clackamas Community College. We already have the author, a contract with the author, And, you know, this is not my baby, and she's doing it with Clackamas Community College, so, and it's the first time she's doing it, so she's gonna learn a lot about timelines, I think. But there was some information about it in the Trail News, like that it's coming, and she's gonna make more announcements, probably right early January. So, I can't remember the title, The Girl Who Fell from the Sky, is that it? Something like that, yeah. So that'll be coming, and she hopes to make that an annual kind of, you know, what do you call it when it's like something that you do not just annual, but it's like one of our main event kind of things. So she's getting support from the Friends and the Foundation for that too, which is really great. Okay, I talked about statistics, and speaking of support, we had our Friends of the Library luncheon, which Cynthia and Nick were there, and that was really nice, along with obviously lots of friends and other foundation people, Pam and Karen, and a bunch of staff from the library. And I got to be the speaker this year, which I asked for since it was my last year of doing this, and that was really fun for me. I got up there and almost cried. Tony got up there and he introduced me and I cried a little bit or whatever, and he's like, not crying, but, you know, a little misty, and he's like, oh yeah, dust. So that's our joke now, dust. So all these last things have been happening. It's kind of tough. Barrett and I and Karen Martini attended the Optimist meeting last week, and we got a commitment from them for $1,000 for summer reading next year, which is double what they usually give. So, and they've also given to the Dolly Parton, the foundation for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So they've just been terrific. They're just a really great group. And you guys, as you know, you're up for another year, all of you. And then, so we had our second round of interviews on Thursday. Staff got to interview and give people a tour, which I think was really important for them. There was a group of like 5 of them that participated in that. And then, let's see, you and Cynthia and Oz were at the meet and greet thing, which was a little different format than some people thought it was going to be. It wasn't like all 4 people in the room at the same time. It was like each person got 30 minutes and had some questions ahead of time that they were asked to respond to. And so some people who attended were a little bit surprised by the format, but like I've been in a format where you are like however many of you, the candidates, are in the same room at the same time, and I had to do that to get this job, and I told HR, I said, please do not do that to them. It is like so awkward. It's just like my least favorite thing. So I felt like this format gave them a little bit more opportunity to really show who they were and what they wanted and what they thought. So that was, I thought that went pretty well. I don't know, what did you think of it, Oz?
I thought that the difference in the time that the people spoke was significant. So I think that the setting it up with the 4 separate people doing presentations was a good thing, because you got a feel for how each one would react to situations.
Well, and then it was like that one person was in front of like everybody who could actually hear them talk. When you have everybody in the same room, it's like, it's a lot less, I think you get a lot less of the candidate.
One thing I did notice, and this is kind of a general selection, general recommendation, there are no analog clocks in that room. And several of the speakers either looked at their watches, obviously, or were reluctant to look at their watches, and it was obvious. And they had trouble keeping track of where they were in the 30 minutes they were allotted.
Got it, okay.
So it'd be a good idea to have a couple of real clocks on the wall.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. So anyway, I think they're probably, that the next step will probably be, I would suspect that a couple people will be invited back to talk to Tony. Maybe just even by himself, I don't know. But he ultimately needs to make the decision, as you know, but he's been great about listening to people's input. If you want to email him and give him your opinion about anything, feel free to, for those of you who had some exposure to the candidates. And I do want to assure you that he is definitely listening to my opinion on this. So in fact, I went in on Monday and filled him full of opinions on it. So I'm urging him also to move on to like the next step as soon as possible. So, however, I have made a commitment to stay till the end of January. Because that seems like at this point in time, that's just reasonable, right? I mean, yeah, okay. So that's where that is. And yeah, so I'll be back in January, so this is not goodbye, but I mean, I really want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for serving in this capacity. It means a great deal to us to get feedback from you on a regular basis and to have a group of people that really like can absorb and learn about the library and kind of have some continuity on what, you know, they're not just drop in and just get to know like your little section of fiction or whatever that you like, but the back end of the library and get to know that better and help with policies and represent the community in a way that, you know, it's hard for us because, you know, we're just too ingrained. You know, and we need to hear from the community as much as possible. And I know it's like, I don't know, believe me, evening meetings are like one of my least favorite things to do. And I know it keeps you away from going home and having dinner and all that stuff. And I just really appreciate your time, and you're great to work with. And I hope you enjoy it because I always have fun coming to these meetings. So thank you for everything. And then there was one more thing I wanted to add to this section. And that was a draft plan for next month and the following months in 2020. And I basically looked at what we did last year and just kind of put in new dates and added the introduction of hopefully a new library director, although by January 8th, who knows? At least we should know like a name by then, you know, if nothing else. And then Nick brought up a topic that would be in the bylaws, and so it's a topic of us thinking about, do you want to look at this, Scott?
I found it.
Okay, great. The topic is, do we have the right mix of representatives from city and outside of city? Since the population from outside the city has grown so much, do we need to like relook at who makes up the board? So right now it's 4 people from in the city, 2 people from out of the city, and 1 at large. And of course the 7, the number is great in case there was a voting situation, right? But outside the city has grown, and the population numbers are much closer. So we don't need to talk about that tonight. What we need to do is I'm going to send you the bylaws, and what I'd like you to do is just take a look at them and think about any areas that you think might need some discussion or some change. And we don't have to make a decision about what that is or what direction we want to go in January at all, because that's just kind of the annual, like, hey, everybody, we have bylaws, and guess what? We are, like, held to these bylaws, just so you have that awareness. But if that's an important change, or if we want to add, like, a teen representative or something like that, you know, would that be a good idea? Would it need to be reflected in the bylaws? I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I'm going to send those to you like by the end of this week. And I just want you to look at those with that in mind. Like, are there any changes that we need to make to this document? So, and then we can look at we'll just like march through this plan unless people want to make changes. And we can also make them organically as things come up. As you know, it was just like a way to make sure that like everybody was exposed to like very basic information, and that we were also looking at policies and on like a rotating basis, so that like, you know, every 3 years, all the policies get a review and come in front of you, that kind of thing. And that you get to know staff a little bit, like next year, since you've all been here now. maybe we do that a little bit differently, bring in different staff or something like that, whatever. I was kind of reflecting the major areas of the library last time, but we could do it differently. So take a look at that. Those are the meeting dates, just so you know. I'm sure you've got it on your calendar for, into infinity, a meeting that never ends. So any comments on the draft plan for 2020 or anything else?
I just wanted to mention about the board makeup, since I talked with you about it, and in the LDAC, or in the library district, there's a lot of discussion about better representation from the unincorporated areas, and there's, it gets expressed a lot, because of how the funding works and all those kind of things, and so I'm not making any recommendations, but I thought it would be good for us to look at that and see if there's any different rationale. And I think as part of that discussion too is just how we, particularly for the unincorporated areas, are really our focus. Maybe make it a focus point or something over the next year or so. I know it's in our strategic plan.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to mention was about building bridges. There was a interview with the leader, Alexis. I don't know if you are on OPB, and it's really good, and it's really so positive about Oregon City Library, and I mean it really makes me proud to be part of the library board and part of the library from that standpoint. And actually, in the last session that we had, there were actually people from outside of Oregon City that had heard the discussion on OPB, and they made their way out here from other areas to come in attendance. And if you get a chance, it's really definitely worth listening to. It's about 15 minutes.
I can send that link. I'll look for that link and send that to you
radio or
guys.
TV.
It was a radio.
Yeah. It was it? I'll look for it.
I forget.
Think out loud, or
I think it may have.
It might have been. I'll send it to you when I send you the bylaws, because Aaron sent it to us. And there's still 3 more in that series, and one of them is in December. One of them is like the
It's
19th.
the third Thursday.
So that's the 19th.
Yes,
Because it's the same
it
night
is.
my son does Dungeon Battle Karaoke, if you want to hear about that. Completely, really different. Okay.
any more comments? At the moment. Right. So you're done with your report?
Yep.
All right, we'll move on
Yeah.
to item number 5, discussion on the annual presentation to the city commission.
Right, so every year we just give them kind of a, hi, this is us, we've been working on stuff, here's what we've been working on. Do you have any questions kind of thing, a check-in? So they just want to hear from their boards and somebody who's on it, Not everybody has to attend the meeting, but it's nice when people show up. Probably Scott, you're the chair. Of course, it'll be January. So that would be the other thing we should add on our list, is elections.
Yeah.
Yeah, elections. See, this is why we do this. There we go. Elections. I think you should plan on it, though.
When's that
Well, the
meeting?
meeting is, the 8th. I think it's actually the 18th.
18th.
Yeah. It's the 3rd Wednesday, I believe. So anyway, I just looked kind of through the last year and grabbed some stuff that I thought was pertinent that they would be interested in. So that's what this is, highlights. And, I think that the liaison situation that we do is important for them to know about, because it shows that we're really trying to keep all of our groups going in the same direction, and we actively work on that. We don't just take it for granted that it's more than just me doing it, which is really very great. So that, policies, reviewing the strategic plan, which really makes it a living document, I think. And that is on the agenda for July of next year. We actually have a full board for a change. That's a nice change. Is there something that I missed that you would want? Because what I'll do then is I'll put this in a little report to them, because we always have to submit a staff report for anything that is on a city commission agenda. And then we can turn it into just, 3 to 5 bullet points or something for Scott to reiterate to them when he's sitting in front of the firing squad here on the main seat. And I don't need to write that until like early January, by the way. So there's plenty of time to think about that.
Maybe something about working with the neighborhood groups to have meetings and getting the door fixed.
Good one. Good one. That was the one time we had visitors, so
Yes.
probably pretty important too. They'll like that. They'll like that we're responsive to the community. I mean, at least we will be in the future responsive. Our plan is to be responsive to the community, right? To the community.
Anybody else have any additions?
Okay, we'll take a look at that and email me if you think of something. That's a good one, Scott. I'm glad you caught it.
Okay, we will move on to item 6, communications. We'll start with Nick. Did you have an LDEC meeting?
We did not have an
did not?
LDAC meeting, no.
Okay.
And we haven't really started the task force to any extent that I'm aware of.
I think invitations for meeting dates are gonna go out pretty soon, because they were asking me if that, if I had, if they had the right list of people.
Oh,
So on that topic, the list of people that we've put in for, the potential list of people who would attend or vote for the city and be on these task force meeting is, let's see, Tony Wyatt, the finance director, Maria McIlvain, who's the deputy finance director, me still, because I don't know when these are going to start, some unnamed future library director who we don't know, and then Nick, since he's the LDAC rep, and then Oz, because he's the backup LDAC rep. So those are the people who are going to be contacted, and then we might need to think more about like that if that first meeting is like a general meeting, then we probably like all want to try and go, that group of people, you know what I'm saying? Because it will probably be pretty foundational. And then I would think that after that, we could be a little bit more intentional about like the 2 people who were sitting at the table, and then anybody can attend. So we can, that's the kind of thing we can talk about via email, so. So if you see something via email come in about scheduling, then that's going on, okay?
So you were suggesting all of us here attend the first one?
No,
Or just the group?
just
Okay.
all out of that group that has agreed to, because we're, it's like governance and funding and services, right? So, the funding, the city people, that's why it's the finance people from the city and all that,
Okay.
yeah.
Cynthia, Library Foundation.
Well, we're not meeting in December, so I can report what happened in November, that we're in recovery from the Dolly Parton event, which was very successful, and monies are still coming in from that. We're at about 12,000, 14,000, I think.
It was about 19,000.
Really?
That we earned, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
That's great.
so
Or that we
it's
made, I'm
been
not
really
sure.
great. And the November meeting focused on kind of the challenges of managing the details of implementing the Dolly Parton project. And there was so much discussion around that, we decided to do was to have a longer-term planning session in January where we will address a number of key foundation issues, not just Dolly Parton. Karen Martini, the director, and I met the other day to kind of map out an agenda, and we're going to be looking at the foundation board infrastructure, bylaws and membership. Must be the bylaws time of the year, I guess.
Yep.
Then how to manage the operational details of the Dolly Parton project, and who really needs to do that, and what is the foundation's ongoing role with that. And kind of what is life after Dolly Parton? What are some possible new goals for the foundation as we invite a new director to be a part of our operation and as we move into planning with that individual? So we've set aside 4 hours, I think it is, in November to kind of wrestle some of these details to the ground and to, I think, tighten up the sense of management and future of the foundation.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's going to be January 25th, I believe, and it actually will be at the library because Karen was able to reserve that space, which will be nice, in the community room, so people can snack and think.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, it is good.
Thank you, Cynthia. Ken, Friends of the Library.
Well, they didn't have a meeting this month either, but last month they had a meeting that went well. And then they also had the, trying to remember, I forgot to bring my glasses. So I didn't read that. But anyway, they did have the luncheon. I missed it, but I went to the bookstore and had a chat with some of the ladies there, and they said that they sold an awful lot of raffle tickets. They couldn't give me a number on that. And they said they had a talk by a wonderful lady who put them in tears, and they really enjoyed it.
That's great.
And of course, that lady is Marie. So that's what I got from them. And it seems like the bookstore is running well. And I guess there's not a whole lot more I can say about that, except they will have that open house on the 13th.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
The bookstore?
No,
Yeah, it'll be
at the library.
at the library.
I think it's a cooperative effort, right?
It is. It's
Yeah.
Maureen's retirement open house. It will be on Friday from 3 until 6. The staff, the foundation, and the friends are putting it on jointly. And at 4 o'clock, we'll have a little commentary section. So,
Roast.
All right, thank you, Ken. Anything else? Anybody have anything to add or any future business items to propose?
On future items, sometime in this past year, we talked about the, managing the homeless and other, kinds of issues that contemporary libraries are facing. And I know the staff was going to go to a training thing or went to a training kind of thing with other libraries that were, how were they managing them? And at some point, I'd like to kind of hear back what was learned there and how that might help inform how our library handles that. I mean, I know there's not one answer and it's not a one-time, situation, but how did that training work out? and what did it lead to in terms of how our library will, continue to address that issue?
Great. It's a good topic to talk about.
Yeah, very good. Anybody have anything else? Okay, well, I would like to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, and we will see you all back next year. The meeting is adjourned.
Wow.